So my name is Nick Syke. I have been telling the story of ag since I was 12 years old. My dad, Rob Syke, founded the Agritrend group of companies, which is now a part of Trimble. At 12 years old, I began helping Agritrend make videos. I developed a knack for talking with farmers and helping them tell their stories on camera. Helping farmers communicate gave me a sense of fulfillment because I've always considered myself to be a storyteller. Cameras being my chosen medium, I went to film school, and I continued working on ag videos throughout film school. And after graduating, I was given an opportunity to co-direct and film a documentary in Sudan. So at 19 years old, I took my first solo trip outside of Canada and went to a war-torn country in search of a story. And that trip opened my eyes to the world considerably. And when I finished that project and got back to working in ag exclusively, it felt a little hollow, maybe a little small scale. I wanted to tell bigger stories, so I moved to Canada's Hollywood, Vancouver. Now, I'm quite a liberal guy. I won't tell you who I voted for or how much I regret it, but I will tell you that when I moved to Vancouver, I fell really hard into hippie culture. The voices talking to me most loudly about food were not farmers or agronomists. They were your typical anti-GMO, whole foods loving people. And due to a lack of vigilance, my perception of agriculture shifted from overtly positive to passively negative. I absorbed the rhetoric without thinking about it, and I would come home to Alberta and hang out with my dad, and I would have just attacks of cognitive dissonance. I'd rub up against my old views of agriculture, which were at odds with my new views, and I just wasn't thinking clearly. So call it 2015 or so when this cognitive dissonance peaked. It was around this time that my dad decided that the world needed a documentary about genetic engineering. How he arrived at that story is a whole story on its own, but the short of it is that Rob saw a gap in ag's PR, which just wasn't doing an effective job of relating its successes with genetic engineering. Rob wanted to address that with a documentary, so he asked me to lead the documentary, being that I was a filmmaker, and we called it No GMO, the movie. That's no as in knowledge, K-N-O-W. We quickly raised funds to shoot the film, and we wanted it done fast, so before I knew it, I found myself traveling all over the world with a film crew, talking to farmers. Deja vu. And it didn't take me long for the brain fog to clear. It didn't take me long to remember my knack for doing this kind of work, and it didn't take me long to realize how lost I'd actually become in Vancouver. Surprise! Farmers know more about farming than hippies living in Vancouver do. I was as shocked as you were. I ended up back in East Africa when we filmed in Uganda and Kenya, and I saw their farmers' desperate need for technologies like genetic engineering. And I was reminded of my time in Sudan and my desire to tell big stories and good stories. And I was reminded that the story of agriculture is a good story. It might be the best story. And one that desperately needs to be told as well. So I was on a boat on the Nile in Uganda when I had kind of a come to Jesus moment about this. And every day since then, I've been dedicating my day to telling the story of ag. The documentary, though, was never finished. Why? Well, we only had funds to shoot the documentary. We were still searching for the cash to edit the thing, license all the music. Rolling Stones are expensive songs. So as we were hunting for cash, Food Evolution made its debut. And I'm sure most of you know of that film. For those of you who don't, it's a documentary about biotechnology. It's amazing. It's narrated by Neil deGrasse Tyson. It is a fantastic film. But it has struggled to get penetration into the anti-GMO crowd, right? Pro-GMO, we love it. Love it, of course. But Netflix declined to distribute Food Evolution, so anti-GMO people were just not running into it. They weren't encountering it. And that gave me pause. Was making yet another documentary the best approach? Maybe, maybe not. We pivoted, which was a really good move in the end. See, a favorite tactic of the anti-GMO crowd is to change the subject quickly when they're wrong, right? They shift the goalposts, they move around. A film is a one-time thing, though. It is very hard to make a film react to shifting goalposts. Not to mention that very few people will sit through a 90-minute documentary they fundamentally disagree with. And that's a continuing issue for Food Evolution. We needed to meet hippies halfway. We needed to get onto Facebook and Twitter and onto YouTube where this misinformation is. We needed to make shorter content that was more proactive with the agricultural zeitgeist. My dad actually puts it best when he says, we thought we needed to bake a cake and make a movie. What we really needed to do was bake muffins, shorter videos. So same ingredients, but just in a different format. So, excuse me, No GMO the movie became No Ideas Media because GMO is frankly far from the only topic that the public has misinformation on about agriculture. We started a Facebook page and a Twitter profile and a YouTube channel, and we started taking this documentary footage that we had gathered and packaging it into shorter form videos that were easy to watch, easy to share, and formatted in a non-confrontational way. Today, our Facebook page has 21,000 followers. It's our primary platform. We have a two-person team, myself on the video production and Scott McPherson curating our social media content. Our community is half comprised of people who work in ag and half comprised of regular people, which is kind of cool. We're common ground, where farmers and non-farmers meet to engage in respectful dialogue about all things ag. In the reel that's been playing up here, oh good, I was recording. I thought I forgot that. In the reel that's been playing up here, you've been seeing comments from the followers of our page. Farmers really appreciate that we're helping them tell their story, and consumers appreciate that we've taken the rhetoric down a notch. They can ask questions, farmers can answer, and then we do the moderation. As mentioned before, this work is stressful. It can keep you up at night. But what eventually lets me rest easy is this. Over 25% of the people who visit our page have reported that our approach has shifted their perceptions of agriculture in a positive direction. So I'm very proud of that success. But the next challenge is still being here in a year or 5 years or 10 years. I think ag communication is often maybe a little too reliant on non-profit models. If the monetary support dries up, the campaigns evaporate and the social license goes into the wind. And that is unfortunate because you really need independent third parties that can add a level of objectivity to this discussion, because there are just things you can't say as a company. There are topics you can't touch. There are levels of objectivity you can't reach as a large corporate entity. The voices of credible third parties like No Ideas Media and others are really crucial to Corteva's longevity, given the fact that public trust plays into this so much now. So No Ideas Media aims to be capable of sustaining itself through ads served on our content. If we can reach the scale where ads in our videos can generate the revenue we need to operate, we think that No Ideas Media can become something like National Geographic or Popular Science, a source for trusted information about technical and scientific topics like ag that has a long reputation of credibility. So reaching that scale is our goal, and you can help No Ideas Media reach that goal by following us. You need to follow No Ideas Media. There's like 200 people in this room. I want to see 200 new followers at the end here. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. That's just absolutely number one, because if you see what we're doing and how we're doing it, I think that you'll be compelled to share the information. So on that note, I want to show you our most popular video, and I have to click to make this work, so fingers crossed.
Milking a 600 kilogram Holstein, now that's easy. Milking a 1 gram almond, that's hard. Tiny little udders, tiny. This is a picture of my grandfather in World War II. When he got back from the war, he started this here nut milkery, and I'm 3rd generation nut milker now, and I love what I do. There's so much confusion in city folk these days. They're talking about nuts don't lactate, nuts don't have nipples. I'll show you a nut nipple. This is a tandem nut milker that milks 2 nuts at a time. It's comfortable for them. They want to be milked. You'll never see a happier nut than a freshly milked nut. And, you can hear them a little bit. If you listen, you hear that chirping? That's a happy nut. Back in the old days, we used to train gerbils to milk the nuts, but they would eat some of our herd, and it wasn't ideal. So these dual nut milkers have really changed the game. I'd say, well, I know exactly how many we got. We got 564 of these running 24/7. It's quite the operation. So it takes about 200 almonds to get a half gallon of almond milk. And see that there, that's what you get from a couple of nuts. Looks like milk to me. Nice and warm. All our almonds are fully organic, grass-fed. Oh, this will last them a good month, I'd say. All these ones you see here, these are females. Now, the ones you see in the store, those are all males. They have no udder at all. And most people go their whole lives and see nothing but a male almond because, well, we don't let the females off the farm. You gotta be careful if you're gonna pick up and pet an almond. They'll jump right out at you, poke you in the eye. Whoa, whoa, easy girl. Hardest part for sure is learning the art of properly sexing the nuts. Because if you don't do that properly, it can really cut into your bottom dollar. I don't even really know what I'm looking for when I do it, man. I had to learn it from my father, and he learned it from his grandfather. You kind of just look at the back end of it, and I guess you feel the essence of the nut, and you can just kind of tell if it's a male or a female. When it boils down to it, it's really an art. It's something that takes time to do. You know, it's a hard job, but I'm living the dream, and nothing makes me happier than knowing that my hard work went into making this nut milk happen. I wouldn't do anything else.
There you go. Nice and warm. So, thank you. So what the hell did we just watch? What was that? Well, we wanted to start a conversation about the US dairy lobby's work to block plant-based milks from calling themselves milk. From the dairy industry's perspective, milk only comes from nipples. Now, regardless of where you personally stand on this issue, the actual concept in question here is SOI. It's a standards of identity question, which is a pretty complex and dry topic. I mean, can you imagine if we did a video called, like, Standards of Identity as they apply to the dairy industry, an overview? Yawn, right? That probably would have been seen like a dozen times, no comments, shared once by my grandma, that would have been it. But we came up with a more compelling setup, this nut milkery and this gravelly sounding nut milking farmer. And that video has been seen 4 million times to date. The commissioner of the FDA has retweeted it. It's been translated into German. Scott and I both had to create new shortcuts on our keyboard because we were typing standards of identity so much in the comments section. We gotta teach like so many people about standards of identity, which is a very esoteric topic, and the effects that those rules have on what we call our food. And we did it by being funny and being engaging and telling a compelling story. And 4 million views from a revenue perspective, can you imagine if a video like that was brought to you by Corteva and I charged you the industry standard 25 cents per view? I'd bleed your marketing budget dry, and No Ideas Media would be around for another 5 years. So the point is, the model can work, the revenue model can work. And to get this thing running, I do need a few things. I need to find advertisers and sponsors who see the big picture in what we're trying to do here. Pairing support from advertisers with our ever-increasing video views is a win-win. So if you know any companies, maybe needing to market to farmers or consumers, could use a little social license, send them my direction. Corteva, excuse me. I need you to keep an eye out as well for our tweets and our Facebook posts and our YouTube links, and I need you to share them, okay? No Ideas Media makes tools for ag communicators, but a screwdriver that you didn't know was in your toolbox is an absolutely useless tool. So, you know, get us out there, share our stuff, let people know that we're in their toolbox. And lastly, straight up monetary support is huge. Oh good, they changed the slide. I hate these clickers. No Ideas Media is on Patreon, which is that bottom link there. Patreon is a crowdfunding site. It's kind of like Kickstarter. It works on smaller monthly contributions, though. So if you've got 10 extra bucks kicking around and you want to help us out, jot down that Patreon link. If you've got 100 extra bucks or 10,000 extra bucks, for the love of God, write that link down, please. All right? We'll put it to use. And that's all I have. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you all out there on social media using our tools to tell the story of ag. Thanks very much.